Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos. My name is Olo and I'm back for a new best weapons video. This time we're focused on your melee intelligence options. Those melee weapons that have a bit of physical and a bit of magic, and of course scale with intelligence at different degrees. Often coming with quite magical and impressive Ashes of War. I've been doing some testing to find out which are the best and of course my favorite. Now as always I want to let you know the caps for intelligence melee weapons. You have your two soft caps of 20 and 50. In many cases these weapons today are going to be great to put yourself at 50 and then spend your points elsewhere. But then we have the final soft cap at 80, and of course at 99 you are hard cap, but I would never really recommend going over 80. Now let's get started with the first weapon. Alright, to start us off then, I have a cheeky one for you. I have one that is technically two options, but we're going to focus on one of them. So you want to use a big sword, but you also have a huge brain. An interesting combination, quite rare. Then you want to use the Royal Greatsword or the Ruins Greatsword. You see, both have a intelligence requirement to use them, but they have different scaling. The Ruins Greatsword, this big slab here, well, that's going to scale best with strength, and so you want the bare minimum intelligence to use this thing. Meanwhile, the Royal Greatsword scales really well with intelligence and strength, so you don't need to commit as much to strength, and you can run an actual magic/weapon build with this weapon a lot better. If you take a look at the AR of the +10 Royal Greatsword, it's 928 when in two-hand, which is very respectable. That puts it in the ranges of some of the best strength weapons in the game. How it's getting that damage is the fact that it's also magical base as well as physical. So you can see that it scales with strength and intellect at a C with a little bit of dex at D. What makes this weapon so good though, I think, other than the fact that it's got the awesome Colossal Sword moveset, which is really good, really enjoyable. I am a huge fan of this moveset. It comes down to the Ash of War Wolf's Assault, which is a two-parter. You have the flip, and then the explosion. And as you can see, the sword becomes enchanted on the initial hit, as well as the explosion. The damage of this Ash of War is shockingly good. We're able to see numbers of between 2,000, 3,000 on just this single L2 press. That is very respectable. Meanwhile, the Ruins Greatsword, obviously I've not got it upgraded right now or got the stats for it, but it is still an incredible weapon, and I've actually talked about it as one of the best weapons to choose if you're just going pure strength, flat out, even though it's an intelligence weapon as well. Its Ash of War is one of the best, ridiculously long range, comparable to one of the best weapons of the game, the Blasphemous Blade, and it even has an R2 with some magic damage on it, these gravity magic, that costs no FP, you can do infinitely. So, a brilliant choice if you wanted to go full strength, but as this is more of an intelligence video, I'm gonna go with a more intelligence-based sword. Now in duels, you can see that, yeah, it's the colossal moveset of a sword. That poke is ridiculously good. They're really good at trading. Like, I can just straight trade with people and out-trade them. Naturally, bleed build is going to be scary to do that against, but mostly anyone else, this is really good. Then you have the Ash of War, which is really interesting because it has hyper armor on the first flip. Then the explosion is going to space people out, and it has more range than people seem to expect, which can really catch people. You hit people with either side of this, even the initial flip, it does a lot of damage. Then when it comes to PvE, I mean, again, general moveset, wonderful, super reliable, very fun to play, great range, and because it's a colossal sword, it breaks poise and posture super well. So good in boss fights where you're looking to do that. Speaking of boss fights, the Ash of War, man, the damage on it is nuts. Combine that with a Mimic, oh my god, they just spam this Ash of War. It's so powerful. One of my main weapons originally. Absolutely love this thing. Has to be in this video. To get it, you need to do the Rani storyline, which is going to come up multiple times in this video. We have a full guide on how to do that storyline, but at the end of that storyline, you're going to have to fight a certain best boy, and after defeating him, you'll get the sword. Okay. For this one, I've got a pretty, I think, obvious pick, but it was slept on for a while. Josh even made a video about, you know, this is actually comparable to Moonveil. Maybe think about it. We're talking, of course, about the Wing of Astel. This is your intelligence curved sword, which has some really unique aspects to it. Now, as you can see, it scales at a B rating with intelligence, which is solid for a melee weapon, and then we have C scaling with dex, so that's where your other stats are going to go. With a quality of 50-50 at those soft caps of dex and intelligence, I'm able to get 592 AR on this one-hand weapon, but I would say the majority of the damage is actually coming from its unique R2. You see, it's a little short range slice, and it's a 2-hit combo, right? So I can do it once, and then I can do it twice, and then that's the end of the combo. But if you hold it, it fires out 2 shots. So what you can do is do a 2-hit, and then a 2-hit, so 4 hits for the price of 2. Or 0 when you think about the cost of FP, which is, again, 0. As you can see, the damage is very respectable, racking up towards the 2,200 damage we need to kill these giants in moments for, again, no FP at range. I've seen people talk about that R2 as if it's not very good because it doesn't have crazy range, which is true. But as you can see in PvP, my god, the pressure that you get from that is ridiculous. You're poking people constantly. It does really good damage. To say again, it costs nothing to do. There's some Ashes of War that are very similar to this that cost health or FP or both. Then we have Nebula, the Ash of War, which is a slice that puts down these explosions. What's interesting about this is that the actual slice doesn't do damage, but the explosions will do damage 2 times. So there's the first proc, which is there, and then the second proc. So on a giant, you can see it hitting second times. But in PvP, what you can do is combine the 2. So you put this down, and then you go for the R2. It's very hard to deal with all those multiple explosions and these 2 slices coming at you, or even 4 if you choose to throw 4. As you can see, it really does catch people out, and the damage is surprising. Half this guy's health in one sudden burst. And obviously, you're seeing me run 2 here just for the purposes of the video, but it is a curved sword, right? So you have the running curved sword L1, which is one of the best roll catches or chasing attacks in the game. Also, the design of it is pretty cool. You're using these sort of dried out butterfly wings as weapons. It's just something else. To get the wing of Astel, then, you're going to need to come to the Noxtella Eternal City area, which is basically the upper area of the Ainsel River well. The entrance to this is the Ainsel River main, and that is tied, of course, to the whole storyline with Ranni. We have a whole video dedicated to this whole quest line, so you can check that out if you want the full guide on how to get to this area if you haven't been here before. But if you do have the area unlocked, you want to come to the Noxtella Eternal City Grace, and then double back and climb the ladder up to where I'm standing right now. And essentially, we're going to go through this river area, cross through here, and then walk along the top and drop down to the chest below. So as we walk back up the river, there's going to be this crossing, this tunnel, which is full of these delightful ants with some familiar wings. What's kind of annoying is the shield ant right here. I'm going to get by him real quick. And then as we come to the edge here of the palace ruins, we can see where we need to go, which is over there. And you can see the chest in the dark on my left here. So let me just drop down, carefully not fall off. And here is the chest with the wing of Astel inside of it. Alright, let's just get it over with. The Moonveil katana. If you don't know why I'm kind of like, here we are talking about it, is because for a lot of us, Moonveil was a bit of a blight. You know, where you load into PvP these days and then you see the 900th Rivers of Blood user. Well, it used to be Moonveil. As a weapon, it was incredible, and it still is very good to this day. You have a B rating for Dex and Intelligence, so it scales very well. It is a katana, so it comes with passive blood loss buildup, so you're going to get those procs off some basic attacks. The katana moveset is solid, it's reliable, it's quick, it's got good range, and you'll see in PvP that sometimes I just kill people with the basic katana moveset, even a bit of basic bleed. It goes a long way. Where Moonveil really shines is, of course, the Ash of War. That is transient Moonlight. So you do the sheath, and that means you have a light attack or a heavy attack follow-up. So the light attack is the horizontal slice. It is a medium to close range slice, and it will penetrate through enemies. It will also break posture on enemies, so you can walk up and critical hit them. But the one you want to do for the most damage is the R2 or the heavy. It is much greater range. It is the vertical slice, and you're going to really catch people out with that and do some serious damage. You have shockingly good range with that. It is really effective, really efficient, not too expensive on the FP. To this day, I still see the occasional Moonveil. In fact, the first duel I did for the recording of this is me versus a guy with Moonveil. And yeah, honestly, man, there's not much to say. It's a katana, right? With incredible stats, with the blood buildup, with the awesome moveset, with an incredible Ash of War that is very strong, with great ranged capabilities and piercing capabilities to take down multiple targets with one attack. Of course, you still get the Moonveil katana in the same place as always. This is the Gale Tunnel, just between Limgrave and Caelid. And to get it, all you need to do is defeat the final boss of this cave. Get through the mobs, explore, kill the boss, and it'll drop the weapon. I am so glad to be talking about this weapon on this video after checking all of the various intelligence weapons and finding different, you know, perks, benefits, AR numbers, and so on. I'm so happy to find that the Moonlight Greatsword is one of the better intelligence weapons. Obviously, in this game, it's called the DARKMOON Greatsword, and it has a few interesting differences in this game that I really appreciate. Now, namely, we are going to be buffing this weapon up, which gives it this wonderful glow, and then it is essentially ready to go. If you do not buff it up, you can't do what I'm about to do, which is send out these R2s, which are completely free, do not cost any FP, just the buff, very high damage. As you'll see in PvP, ridiculous damage, a proper vigor check, something that you can spam as well. You can really put people on their toes, really mess with them. Bit of range, bit of melee, bit of range. Single hit of this, it's gonna clean out their health. It's so satisfying. Obviously, the downside to that is the slow nature of it, so it's quite easy to roll, and you're vulnerable while you're doing that. It's quite an interesting one. We've got strength and dex at a D scaling, so kind of quality. You don't want to put too many points into those. And then you have intelligence, which is a B scaler. Then we consider its passive frost buildup, which is very rare. We're going to talk about another frost weapon in this video too. So we've got a greatsword here that's 780 AR, which is really good. If you have a greatsword and it's got about 800 or higher AR, that is one of the best greatswords for its raw damage. But what you don't realize, or might not realize, is when you buff this up and then you've got that R2 effect, it also increases the base damage of the weapon. It increases the scaling of the magic damage aspect. So 845 AR on a greatsword is one of the best. The power and threat of that R2 that you can just spam out is so funny to see people like acknowledge, panic, and deal with. And if you're good at PvP, you have a base on the center of PvP, you can trade with it and then of course do ridiculous damage. I like that they've made it a frost weapon. It's really interesting to look at. When you get a close look at it, the new detail of it, you can see it's actually a frozen weapon. There's little sort of snowflakes that are sticking out of even the crossguard. And the blade itself is almost like a blue crystal that's frozen and has some sort of frozen Erd tree in the middle. I love this design. One of my favorite weapons in the game, 100%, and I'm definitely going to do a build with this. To get the Moonlight Greatsword, or rather the DARKMOON Greatsword, you have to do Ranni's questline. We have a video all about it. Check it out if you want to follow that. But as part of the Ranni's questline, you're going to get yourself up to the plateau at the bottom left or southwest of the lake. So you can get up here, and this is basically where the sword is. All right, so here is my top pick. This is the Death's Poker. And as you can see, take a good look at it. That's a greatsword, right? Yeah, I didn't think so either. It looks like a kind of axe that's just been burned away and is just ruined. But no, it is classed as a greatsword. Therefore, it's a greatsword moveset, which, as we know, and I've said many times, I'm a huge fan of. I think it's very versatile. I think it's very good. I think you can't really go wrong with a greatsword moveset, especially if you're using it in power stance with another greatsword. When you look at its scaling, it's got great scaling with dex, but then only the D intelligence scaling. Very low requirements of 15 strength, 17 dex, and 11 intelligence. Just 11 to get this going. And it's going to scale very poorly with that intelligence if you go above 11. So what this means is you can reach that 11 intelligence and then just leave it at that. Go for a really high level in your dexterity and get great benefits out of this weapon. It also has the incredible passive effect and very rare frost buildup on a unique weapon. 65 is not bad for a base. And its overall AR is 700, which is very commendable, very solid for a greatsword. What makes it stand out is the Ash of War. It is going to poke and deal damage, and then pop an explosion, which will deal damage. That is sort of an icy black flame. So that's a really good Ash of War, right? This 2-hit poke explosion with black flame with ice. It's a lot going on there. But there's actually 2 more stages to it. We have the follow-up with a light attack, which will pop that explosion into a line of icy fire. And you can free aim this, so I can turn it around, turn it left or right, a reasonable degree, and that can catch people out trying to avoid it. Then you have the heavy follow-up, which is going to blow up that ball and create a huge area of that icy black flame, catching people out in PvP incredibly well, because you have that first hit, then you have the second hit, then you have the explosion, which is delayed as well. Check out what I can do to the giants with their 2,200 health. I can get that proc of 2,700 damage beyond their health pool before they can even acknowledge that they're already dead. This weapon was actually in contention for one of the top picks for speedrunners. When the new patch hit and the Frost Stomp was nerfed, as well as the Sword of Night and Flame was nerfed, there was a lot of testing going on to see what weapons would be best as the new alternative. The Despoker was one of those contenders before ultimately they settled on the current glitches, move swaps, and unintended exploits. When those get fixed in the next patch, you assume, maybe we'll start to see some Despoker. But either way, as you can see, the damage of this Ash of War is ludicrous when you're dealing with boss fights, enemies that will stand in that fire or take the burst of it, and in PvP, the triple hit, the floor that you can create as a safe spot or danger spot for them that you can even free aim, the damage of it, the ice proc. There's a lot going on here, and it's an incredibly efficient weapon because you only need 11 intelligence and no more than that to get the value of this. I think it's actually kind of underrated and one of my top picks, if not the top pick, for an intelligence weapon. To get the Despoker, then you're going to want to come to Caelid. We have the Southern Aeonia Swamp Bank Grace. So your path from the Grace is just southeast, just over here to the marker, and there it is. There's the boss. It is one of those death birds, but as you can see, it's a bit of a special one because it's got some black wings. We need to defeat it, and then it'll drop the weapons, so give me a sec. There we go. Not too bad. Definitely could be a scary boss if you're not careful. The frost buildup is dangerous. But when we kill it, we're going to get our Despoker. There we go. Just remember to come here at night, otherwise it will not be here. But those are my top intelligence weapons, my personal picks based on their AR and their overall moveset and effectiveness. While there are a few more that I'd like to talk about, these are my top 5 picks. If the video was useful or helpful to you, please drop a like so we can keep making more. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.